Hello, and welcome to this week's lesson. This video is a lesson to help and guide you as teachers and student teachers on how best we can use teaching strategies to explain concepts to our learners, whether in the junior high school, senior high school, or elementary learners. I hope you enjoy the lesson. Please stay with us and let's all learn and have fun. I'll see you after the lesson. Hello, welcome to lecture 9, Human India Environment. I am your facilitator and guide, teacher Kwame. If you have any concerns, send them to me through my mail, aky@joschool.edu.gh. I will address them as soon as I get your mail. I hope you enjoyed the lesson today, as it is a very interesting one. Our quote for the week: a man who pays respect to the great paves the way for his own greatness. An unknown Ashanti proverb. I hope you can think about this as we look at our lives. In our previous lesson, which was lesson 8, we're looking at how best we can teach personal body care to our learners. In that topic or lesson, we concentrated on health and hygiene. This, we were told, is a build-up of the previous personal body care that we have treated in our various senior high schools and junior high school levels. Under the health and hygiene, we looked at communicable and non-communicable diseases. We were told about some misconceptions that comes with these diseases in our community. We looked at how best we can clear these misconceptions using various field trips, showing them videos and materials. Our emphasis was on teaching strategies to help introduce this concept to our learners. We were asked or told that for this lesson, making use of drawings and colors would be effective. A mini project was introduced in order to help learners to be able to know some common diseases in their communities, and how by doing so, some misconceptions would be cleared. Do you remember now? Very good. We can then move on to our lesson for the week, which is lesson 9. For this, it's expected that your learners' understanding of natural resources will be deepened. How best would they be able to appreciate that our activities as humans have an effect on the environment, whether directly or indirectly? Again, the purpose of the lesson is to make sure our cross-cutting issues are dealt with, correct any misconceptions and misinformation about humans and the environment. As teachers, student teachers, It's expected that as we introduce this concept to our learners, we should clear these misconceptions as at when they come up in the lesson. You should be able to do or carry out another mini project on our minerals, i.e. natural resources in the community, and also look at how our activities are affecting our environment. This one is going to be a localized mini project. As usual, the purpose of the lesson should be in line with the National Teacher Standards, NTS. References are made from pages 12 to 14. Our learning outcome for this lesson. This is our learning indicator to help us know whether teaching and learning has successfully taken place. This concept, when teaching, should be done in such a way that it will be evidence-based. Evidence-based in the sense that as a teacher, a student teacher, you should be showing more videos, pictures, materials. In other words, make references to things that the students or learners can easily relate to, i.e. visuals and aesthetics. Examples here should be common to the learners, something they can easily relate to in their classroom settings or the surroundings. If possible, examples should be that of your town, region, country, or continent, if possible. Now let's look at this concept, natural resources. So, you can ask your learners how they understand the word natural. Resources. Once they do that, you can give them your definition. Cite examples to them. Like I've said earlier, this lesson would be best successful if you make use of videos and images. Show these to them as a way of explaining the concept. For example, let's look at the definition I've written here. Natural resources are naturally occurring materials that are useful or could be useful under conceivable technology. So the definition goes on. Now when we look at the examples that I have given, I have given examples like wood, crude oil, building and clothing, materials of metals, water, and the rest. So which among these examples is common amongst your community? Now, after you have dealt with the definition of the concept, you look at the two types of natural resources that we have. In order to look at these, you can advise your learners to mention from the examples that you have previously written on the board what they think are renewable resources. You can do this in two ways. Either you write the definition on the board for them, or explain what renewable resources are. Once you are done with that, you ask your learners, based on the definitions or concepts that you have explained, can they give examples under renewable resources? Once they are able to mention a few, you can then show your pictures to them, or videos, or any of the materials that is available to you in order to make the lesson more interesting. So in this instance, I have a picture of somebody swimming or working in water, trees, and rubber production from a tree. So these are examples that you can easily show to your learners. Once the renewable resource has been explained, with that same idea, you can ask your learners what they think non-renewable resources can be. So, with that idea that they gain from explaining renewable resources to them, they can easily explain what non-renewable resources are. Once their understanding on the renewable resources is good, they can easily give you examples of non-renewable resources. Once they're able to give you examples, you show them pictures, videos, whether they are drawings done by yourself or any other person to them, in order to explain the concept to them. This will make the lesson more interactive and interesting. Your learner's attention will be drawn towards you and the lesson that you are teaching. So, after you have explained renewable and non-renewable resources to them, you can ask them to tell you the difference between the two. You could task the learners by grouping them, or ask for individual answers. You can divide your whiteboard or blackboard into two. Write down the answers from the learners on the left hand side and the right hand side, correctly labeling them, whether the right hand side is for renewable resources or for non-renewable resources. So as at when the answers keep coming, make sure you write them on the board. Once you are done with writing on the board, go through the answers provided by the learners and then correct the ones that are wrong. Once you find similar answers, you can then find a way of joining it. Whilst you join the answers together, make sure you explain to the learners why you are doing so. And if you are cleaning some answers, tell them why you are cleaning some of the answers. For example, if a learner, their answers under renewable resources, like it can be renewed, that is, it's available in infinite quantity, or it is replenished because it is abundant without end. You can find a way of combining these two statements and explaining to your learners why you are combining these two statements, i.e., they all mean the same thing. Once you do that, the learners appreciate that even if they give out answers during any lesson, you would be able to correct them. And while doing so, you will tell them the reason why you are doing the cleaning, the editing, or the omission. The next time you ask your learners about anything, they would gladly give an answer, because they know that when they are correct, you will tell them. And when they are wrong, you'll also tell them and explain to them why their answers wouldn't fit to the question that you asked. Are we clear on this one? Very good. Now let's move on. Here is a suggested activity for you to give your learners. Once you have clearly explained what natural resources are, once you're able to tell your learners the difference between renewable and non-renewable natural resources, you can give them this activity. Take them out of the classroom. Make them walk around the school compound. And let them write in their books or notebooks, or even if they want to draw, let them draw or sketch items that they think can be classified under renewable and then non-renewable resource. If you feel examples around your school compound or environment would be few, you can additionally add videos and then images, or you can choose to show them videos and images without taking them outside. But I would advise you combine the two. Let them have a nature walk whilst you also show them videos and images. Let them enjoy the lesson. So this is an example of the things that you'd have your learners possibly writing for you. Again, the examples would be community related or region related, depending on what is around their surroundings. So you could have them writing stones, oxygen, sun, those kind of examples. Remember that not all the examples that the learners would give would be right answers. Don't immediately discard their answers. Rather, write them on the board for them, or let them write them in your exercise books if you have any. Or if not, you can make available clipboards for them to write their findings. Now, once you have the examples, you can then ask your learners to group them under renewable and then non-renewable. Here, I would advise that you also encourage the use of colors, drawings, or sketches in order to make the lesson interesting. So the next thing I'm going to show you is, yes, very good. This is some of the things that we think the students or the learners would do. So here is an example of how they might group their examples based on the previous slide we just looked at. So you can have your learners grouping them under renewable resources and the non-renewable resources. They can represent them in any way that they want. It could be drawing, it could be flashcards, it could be writing on the boards. Any way that the learners would want to express themselves, please allow them to do so. This will help them to be able to enjoy the lesson, as they know they will not be restricted in terms of giving answers. Remember that some of the learners, especially in the elementary level, might not be able to give you names of the items that they think can be grouped under any of them. But they can, however, draw the answers. Allow them to do so. If you are able to identify that object, tell them the name and let them write it under it. This will help them to also get to know the names of the objects that they have drawn. It will help them to remember vividly. After you have grouped the answers from the learners under renewable resources and the non-renewable resources, you have to go on and then tell the learners some of the uses of these resources in our community. When I say tell them, doesn't mean you are going to give them the answers. Rather, create an activity where the learners would come up with some of the uses that they think these resources are being used for in their community. For example, when you take firewood from the grouping that the learners would do, you can then tell them what they think these firewood are being used for in our community. Once you have explained using this one example, you let the learners do the rest as an activity whilst you move around to monitor their progress. It would be best if you put them into mixed ability groupings to make it more interacting and interesting. You could ask them to make a poster presentation or visual representation or video representation of the uses that they think some of these resources are being used for. Here is an example for you. When we look at this example, this is an example of a poster presentation of uses or explaining what resources and that is renewable and then non-renewable. So you can show an example or a sample of such nature to your learners in order to give them a fair idea as to what you expect from them. You'd be surprised as to the creativity of your learners. Wouldn't you feel proud as a teacher or student teacher if your learners come up with such posters as a way of making it more interacting and interesting? You could throw in a little bit of competition. That the group with the nicest and clearer poster would be pasted on the classroom wall, and see how enthusiastic your learners would be. Now, having talked about renewable and the non-renewable resources, made your learners give examples and then the uses of such resources, you can ask your learners what they think we do as humans that would affect the resources around us. In other words, what are the things that we do directly or indirectly that would make the resources finish in a way? Once you are able to explain that, you then introduce the topic human activities that affect our environment to them. In order not to be just questions and answers, I would advise that you can make use of this activity. This should help your learners appreciate the impact of human activity on the environment. So, you can show them videos or images of some activities that affect our environment. You can give them guidelines as to what you expect them to put down or write as they watch the videos or as they look at images. So, for example, you can have so many images pasted on the walls of the classroom and give the learners some few minutes to go around the classroom looking at those images. As they move around, tell them to put down the things that they have seen in those images. If it's a group work, make sure to share equal number of images to each of the groups and give them some time to write down the impact of human activities on the environment that they have realized from the videos or images. As a way of an example, let's look at these 4 images. So if I have a class, I can show them this image. So once you show them the image, you tell your learners that you want them to write down the resource that they can find in the images that you have shown them. What is wrong with the images that you have shown them? And what kind of activity you think is affecting the resource in the images? For example, you can show them this picture of this water body. You realize that this is not the color of our usual water body that we know. So you can ask your learners, what resource is in the image? What is wrong with this image? And what activity from us humans do they think is affecting this resource that they have in the image? So the expected answer you can have is there's a water body or water, and the color has turned muddy. The human activity they think is causing this could be mining or galamsey, as would be the usual term that you would hear. These are some of the things that you can do in order for learners to appreciate the impact of human activities on our environment. Once they are able to come out with these findings, you realize that you would be able to assess their knowledge or their understanding about the concept of natural resources, whether they have understood the explanation of renewable resources and non-renewable resources, how they can identify resources when given the opportunity to, and also identify some activities that are affecting these resources via human activities or by humans. See how interesting this lesson has turned out to be. Ready for more? Let's keep learning. After that activity, you let your learners write down some of the effects of human activity on the environment that they realized from the images, videos, or the activity that they did. Use this opportunity to review the lesson that you have had with them. Like I've always said, to ensure that teaching and learning is successful, as you move along in the lesson, make sure to review your learner's knowledge in terms of the concept that you are teaching, so that you don't leave any learner behind in terms of understanding of the concept. Isn't it interesting how science can be fun? I know it is. And look at some references for the lesson that you can also look up on the net. You can find so many videos on the YouTube platform that will help you in teaching the topic human and the environment. Thank you for joining the class. I'll see you again next week to bring you another exciting lesson where we can teach our learners in an environment that is always good for teaching and learning to be successful. See you next time. Welcome back from the lesson. I hope you enjoyed the class. Remember, in this COVID-19 era, remember to wash your hands with soap under running water. Once you are going out, make sure you have your nose masks with you. Put them on wherever you go. Stay safe and see you next week.